morning. Welcome to another Sunday morning sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. This morning, I've had a heck of a week. So I am picking an old comfort character that I've been used to draw a lot when I was much younger. Haven't drawn her in years. Many of you will be like, who the heck is that? And that's absolutely okay. This morning I'm going to do anime character from 1985 called Iczer One. And this isn't like the greatest show ever, but it is a... when I was a little nerdlet, and I still like anime, but I was really big into it, and back then it was, wow, early 90s, and there wasn't much in the way of anime back then, as I think people have gotten kind of spoiled, to be honest. They think it's just easy getting a hold of this stuff. Back then you had to know people, and those people would probably have stuff that was taped off of Japanese television. So anyway, I had a childhood friend named BJ, and his brother was like one of these college dudes that actually was, had connections and such. And he'd stop by and visit family from time to time, and he'd drop off tapes that I don't think he probably just didn't want anymore, to be honest. But that was fine, because I couldn't get my hands on anything. And he gave me a copy. I'm probably going to get the pronunciation wrong, but I believe it was called Tadake Iczer One. Something like that anyway. I don't think the deep voice is necessary, but it definitely feels like it should be. It wasn't like amazing. I did like the artwork in it quite a bit, and the story was fun, though probably inappropriate for someone my age, but that's okay, because actually that's why it was kind of awesome when I love Northern Michigan and all that, but man, back then there was nothing to do. So anyways, I didn't have a very big collection, and that was just right before they started doing a lot of like VHS releases of like subtitled anime and such, and so I got a third, fourth generation subtitled copy of it. Oh, I got that kind of down. Let me zoom in. Alrighty. Right about there. And again, it wasn't a brilliant show, but the thing that I liked about the thing that I liked about it is I think it was just over the top, at least by comparison to the stuff that I typically I was able to get my hands on, and it was just super fun because of that. And, it was like a mecha space opera kind of thing. I think one of the fun elements of it, which was totally absurd in every conceivable way, but actually it's what was kind of awesome about it, was because it was absurd, is the main character, I think it was because of like psionics or something, but the main character, which was an alien trying to save the Earth from her own species, had to synchronize her own abilities with one of the locals, which, what a ridiculous technology that is. Just, wow. So anyways, found a local Earth girl in Japan and just basically abducted her and turned her into a psionic battery, and there was this whole wonderfully kind of, the whole alien species was all women. Well, I love this. Women and monsters, which was great. The monsters were like their weapons, but it was all like hot space women with monsters and robots invading the Earth, which boom, anime. There you go. But so there was this. So all the villains were clearly had like girlfriends and stuff that were like piloting their robots, and so Iczer One had to basically go get herself her own chick to power her robot. There was just pseudo romance battle stuff. Oh, so ridiculous. So unbelievably ridiculous. I think the thing that I kind of liked about it, other than that stuff, is it also had sort of a, which wasn't necessarily really well done, but was kind of neat because there wasn't a whole lot like it, is there was sort of a horror element to it. And, I don't know, not a great show, but I like those oddball ones where you end up going like, wait, what was going on now? Lesbian-powered robots, really? You know, just... oh, okay. Fun stuff. Ridiculous. Wonderfully ridiculous. I think a lot of people, it came in two parts. I think a lot of people didn't get into it because the first part was animated separately from the second part, and to be honest, the quality could have, I think they were just trying to get it done. It was one of those mid-'80s shows that was released directly onto home video, which I think the Japanese were way ahead of us in that idea. I mean, we're just starting to kind of do that now in the last, 10-ish years or whatever, but the Japanese have been doing it since like the early 80s or something, and you'd just be able to get like just about anything you wanted, which is why you get some kind of really absurd sort of shows, admittedly. But they'll just go in and create like sort of wonderful niche shows, some of which are insanely absurd, some of which are actually really cool because you're like, wait a minute, they got money to make a show about, wow, fill in the blank, making sandwiches. I'm sure there is one. Making sandwiches in Utah, like a Japanese guy making sandwiches in Utah. There must be an anime about it. They'll do anything. It's and shockingly, some of it's really good. A lot of it's needs a little work, but. So what I always love is the assumption that everything they make is good, and trust me, I've probably seen thousands of hours of anime. I mean, that was mostly my youth. And one thing I can say is, not everything they make is great. It's just that they make so much of it that the great stuff, by comparison to the percentage, is much higher than ours. But let's see. I think one of the things I liked about Iczer One is she had sort of like giant Spock ears. I thought that was kind of fun because they weren't like necessarily evil or silly looking, or they were just sort of these big, soft, round, not elf ears, not even Spock ears, I guess. I guess that's not fair. But just long freaking ears. Which made sense because most of the characters had like gigantic hair, so it was the only way you could see their ears, I suppose. I think I'm a little off model here. The Iczer One style is one of my favorite styles, but it's actually, for me, difficult to do. So I'm going to try to sort of do my best to get the character to look right, but that old, oh, what's his name? Oh, the original artist that did the character designs. I don't recall his name offhand right now. But I always loved his stuff because it was like super, super loose and really abstracted. And I mean, I love it when people go like, oh yeah, anime has this style. It's like, no, it's got like 1,000 styles. And some of them are radically different looking than the ones that people stereotypically think of. And some of these old shows where they didn't make a ton of something in a singular style had like a certain really great look to it. Because, there we go. Because they were like grabbing like, you know, the first really great artists they could get to work on it, because they weren't like Disney level productions. They were direct to video, and so sometimes you get these really wonderful off-kilter sort of styles. And so wife and I was talking last night, and I'm not one of these guys going like, I think everything should look like G.I. Joe from the 80s. We weren't doing that. I was watching Dirty Pair last night, and I was kind of thinking to myself, not that I don't want new styles. I want new styles. But I also want some people to go back to the older styles and reapproach them from time to time, too. Because it's like you just don't want some of these styles to go away. You don't want everything to be done in them. Like, I don't want everything to look like Iczer One. I think that would be absolutely absurd. But it'd be kind of cool, again, to see, like, Japan do, like, a mid-'80s, like, Iczer One style mech show, you know? Because I think the mechs were really cool in Iczer One. I think the big difference was it was from a species that was like entirely female, so like all the mechs had a certain, without being like sexy, but a certain feminine look to them, and they were not sexy built. They just, you know, it wasn't like a joke. Like some styles will go in and like give their robots boobs and stuff, which is funny. I'm not judging. Manzinger Z did that, which I still laugh every single time I see it's Diana D, I think is the name of that robot. Anyway, they had these great robots, and there was I mean, they looked bad, too. They were bad-looking, dangerous-looking robots. But the great thing about the mech design was there was something notably feminine about them. So you were like, ooh, kind of like, they looked sleeker. They had like more in the hips and legs. You know, they were very kind of armored looking. They weren't thuggy and square. They were flowy. You know, not like they were the most amazing things ever, but pretty neat, honestly. When I was younger, I was kind of initially blown away by it because it was so different than anything I'd ever seen. And I'd seen some anime at that point, but that was like I was like watching it, going like, what the hell's going on? I guess maybe Iczer One was probably not the best thing I could have started with, because it was pretty over the top in many ways. It kind of set some weird standards in my head, I think. But it's nice because I kind of got dropped into a very deep, weird pool for anime early on, even though I was stuck up in northern Michigan in that way. I mean, I love northern Michigan, but at that time I wouldn't use the word cultural hub. I would say it had a great culture, but, you know, seeing like getting other stuff in there like anime. So I'm glad I had friends that, you know, not only were into this stuff, but had some access to it, so we could. So I guess thank you, Mr. Motorcycle. My windows are open. Anyway, so I guess I'm glad I didn't fall into like that sports fan trap or whatever. I'm so glad that I got into something much geekier. And I'm glad that I got into anime before it became like a gigantic thing, because it was kind of special back then. Now it's just sort of another entertainment. Nobody thinks about it really, which is a shame, because it's really a neat art form. A lot of people assign these, unfortunately, these very ridiculous kind of stereotypes to it. And I always hated that, because every single time I saw like somebody doing a stereotype, and sometimes they're pretty spot on, but then everybody goes, yeah, all anime is like that. I'm like, Not really. There's stuff out there that is so different than what you're used to, unless you're watching. I mean, really watching the stuff. I'm talking not like just the new stuff that's popular and available over here in America, but like some of the kind of just really neat stuff. I mean, there was really cool, like oh, let me think. I'm trying to think. I want to say Cowboy Bebop. That's not right. Anyways, I'm forgetting what the current work is, but there's a very popular piece that everybody usually refers to of anime, and it's an action piece. It's got some dark elements. For some reason I can't remember it right now. But I had seen its predecessor called Midnight Eye Goku, and it's one of these like shows where like almost nobody has. Maybe that's changed at this point, but last I knew, nobody had really seen it. And I remember watching Midnight Eye Goku, and I mean, weird, messed up, violent, dark. And there was stuff in there that I don't want to mention here because it's just square out inappropriate for this broadcast. But just I saw that, and I was like, nobody knows this. Like, a friend of mine had it on VHS, and we watched it years back, and I'm just like, going like, what? That's why I always loved the what element when I would watch some of this stuff. I'd be like, that is amazing. Somebody did blank and they didn't get in trouble for it. Like, people here in America would just complain about stuff. I mean, like, really deeply, continually, and it's both sides of the spectrum do it. Complain. You know, one side would say, would say that they're offended or whatever, and then they'd be like, buck up, and then they themselves would be offended about something. And you just look at what the Japanese produce, and you just told to go like, I don't think anybody over there says anything. They just do stuff that's insane and crazy, and I almost kind of think some of them kind of just get off on doing the weirdest things possible in animation, which admittedly is kind of awesome, because I mean, if you're not pushing the envelope, then you're just doing the same thing over and over again. But there's just times where I'd be watching anime and be like, man, I didn't see that coming. I'm like, I love it when I get caught off guard. That's one of the best parts in entertainment to me, is when you go like, wait, I didn't see that coming. Because like back when I was younger, in the, I guess it's probably about the 90s, and I'm not doing this as a brag, I would go to a lot of movies. I'm not doing the nerd thing like I'm so much better, but I would go to like the movies, and quite often within the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, I knew who was going to die and in what order, and what the plot twists were going to be, because so much of it was just so easy to read. It was so dumb, and let's face it, I've had a lot of wasted youth, so I can read this stuff pretty well. So when I get completely taken off guard, it's a real treat. And anime would do that quite often, where I just, because clearly there's cultural differences, and they've got different tropes, and now that I know a lot of their tropes, I do get a little tired of their stuff now. Except the stuff that isn't doing the tropes. That stuff's always a treat. You just get moments. It's just what I was loving about, and I think that's what it was when I started with it. When I saw Iczer One, I literally was like, where is this going? Yeah, I'm going to make her a little different. I am not able to reproduce that style. I'd have to really, really work it. Besides, honestly, this morning, it's been a heck of a week. And at the moment, I just want to have a little fun. I want to see how close I can get, but I'm not going to replicate this style. This is a super difficult style to reproduce. I think I could do it, but I don't think I've got the patience at the moment, which is a shame. So she might be a character I might reapproach again later. Apparently I do old, crusty American male characters and cute anime girls. I don't know if there's something to be read into that or not. I'm not real sure. There might be. Alright, I'm going to start in on the element that makes Iczer One amazing, which is her extremely fabulous hair, which is why I'm about to do this. I'm about to back way out because she's got like a mop. She's got like hair that the Dragon Ball Z characters are jealous of. And I don't even think I'm going to be able to... I'm probably going to end up running off the page somewhat, which is going to be kind of awesome, so... I love it. Usually, like, it's like, here's the break in the hair on the skull, like, right here. And I'm, like, looking at the character, and where hers is like here. So I'm going to pay attention to that, because I'm needing a little over the top at the moment. So, one of the things that I do when I, like, do these crazy hair sort of things, because a lot of people, you know, they kind of just start throwing lines down and going like, oh, the hair's here. It's like, well, some people can do that, and actually on hairstyles that I do that too, but when you've got something that's sort of this over the top, I need a moment to roughly figure out where the boundaries are. And they are notable. Okay. So I'm going to break it down into its general silhouetted shapes here. And people are like, why did you draw the ear in if it's going to get erased? Because I wanted to. Why do you draw the characters naked before you put clothing on it? Well, not only because I want to, but in that case I need the structure under the clothing, but in this case I just really wanted to draw the ear, because they're kind of a wonderfully fun shape to draw. Even if you end up erasing them later, I'm like, ooh, I get to draw that ear again. I love that ear. Okay. She's got one down. Over. I love the ridiculousness of the excessive 80s hair that they did over there. Oh my... I mean, I'm glad they don't do it on everything. I think that would be ridiculous. But man, when you get like some serious like Japanese 80s hair going on, like Gem and the Holograms eat your heart out, you know? I'm trying to remember, I like the manga artist that created Iczer One. The way he draws hair is amazing, because if you actually like look closely at his artwork that he inked, quite often you could just take your finger and go from the outside of the character where there's no character and drag your finger all the way through the hair and actually go all the way out the other side, because like none of the lines would be connected. And it always just for some reason looked really wonderfully like amazing because of that. And, maybe I need to stop talking a little bit and put lines down, because that's what I'm trying to, you know, apparently can't do two things at the same time. It's funny, this hair almost has like anatomy itself. It's just so ridiculously over the top. Love the over the top. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Then it goes down. Okay, so she has that. Alright, so what I'm typically trying to do is, if I put too many lines down and I'm wrong, then I've got a huge area to erase and fix. So right now I'm just trying to do gesture lines and sort of generally figure out general areas and just trying to keep it light, because I know this is going to, I'm going to try to keep a little bit of that ear in there, because honestly, I just love those ears. They're just, they're so simple. They're not like revolutionary, but there's just something super fun about the Iczer One ears. All right. So what I'm going to do is there's actually, let me pull her back into the screen. All right. See, I'm trying to do this mess mop. Now, she has these golden coils that come down. I'm going to save those till later because the rest of it is actually going to take me some time to figure out. So I will. It's actually funny. I've been watching The Joy of Painting, and it's so funny. Bob Ross would go in and would paint entire forests, and then would just paint forests over those forests again. So he would just layer. So he didn't have to think about where things were. So that's actually what I'm doing, is I'm just layering. So I know there's like these coils that are going to come down, and that's actually why I did the ear, is that I'm layering, so I know there's no question in my head. I know where the skull is, I know where the hair is, I know where the ears are, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm just going to try to develop that stuff. And as I'm developing it, not spend an hour on it, because it might get covered up, it might get modified, it might get, whatever. And the reason you don't want to worry too much about it is one, especially with hair, you don't want to be drawing 8,000 lines in here, like just sketching that line, because it's not going to look fluid. At least I can't do that. So I try to get the actual singular lines to be done in as few strokes as possible. Not to say that's the Japanese way of doing it, but maybe it is, but that's how I end up kind of figuring it out. See, these lines right here would have been super tough to have done if I didn't know where I was ending at. So what anyone out there that wants to play with this, not that I'm teaching you, but that wants to play with this sort of thing, I find it easier that you get a couple of those lines in, and then you just get very practiced at doing nice flowy lines, and then you can just go in and fill the blank in. How was your shower, sweetie? Right on. Iczer One. Yeah, I just needed something simple and fun. So, and she's not so much simple. Well, she's simple compared to some things. I mean, she's not got an old dude face that requires a ton of flesh and lines and wrinkles and stuff. Because her hair is like more than making up for that. But there's something nice about just going in and just kind of. It's what I like about the anime girl faces. At least for me, they're kind of more like just throw it down and have fun. Whereas like some of the American cartoon stuff, which I think it's opposite for other people. With the American cartoon stuff, I usually have to think about a little bit more. And like the Japanese stuff, like with like cute action girls or sci-fi stuff, I end up kind of going like, woo, just kind of have fun with it and not think anything about it.
Well, probably definitely a bit more. I mean, you're used to drawing her. You've drawn her a lot more back in the day.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it's funny. I actually had to challenge myself with completely drawing differently, which is why I do art the way I do now. Because I could almost do the stuff with my eyes closed, and people are like, well, why didn't you take advantage of the anime explosion? I'm all like, that wasn't the point. I was doing this stuff because I loved it and because I wanted to be a good artist. I didn't want to just go and be like, hey, I'm that guy that does anime and manga. and I could probably still go back and do that, but I want to be a little bit more versatile than like just.
The anime.
Well, yeah, like, and I definitely like keeping elements from it. Actually, let me back that out a little more. But man, at the end of the day, I just kind of want to. I don't want to get. I don't want to be known for like really one thing. I kind of just want to do art and then have people go like, man, look at all the stuff he does, because I think I'd get bored just doing just one thing. I think I would exhaust myself. Be like, oh, I'm doing this again,
That comes with what you want to do and what you feel like doing. It's like me doing the Flooney stuff. I really like doing that. I have a lot of fun. That's what I've been doing for quite a while now. It is mainly because I'm good at it. It's fun. I don't have to think about it all that hard. On the same note, I want to do other stuff.
Yeah, what was that last bit, huh?
On the same note, I like doing other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's I think that's what I was bumping into. Is after a while, it's like how many cute chicks with awesome hair can you draw? And after a while, you end up going like, there's a reason why the bad anime is the way it is, because at the end of it, somebody, it's like corporate America. Somebody goes, that thing has to be there, and you end up going like, yeah, but what if we don't want to do that one thing again? Do we have to always have like the gaggle of cute anime girls, tee-heeing, and I mean that stuff is fun, but when it's all that way, it's like, oh man, it gets so old so quick. It's one of the reasons why I was getting exhausted with how like Disney had been doing stuff where suddenly they'd break out into song. I'm like, oh, and some of the music was good, but it was that you could almost go 3, 2, 1, and then they start singing, and you'd be like, guys, like that's why I loved about Pixar is quite often I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen next with how like Disney was starting to get, they were becoming very predictable, and that's what anime to me is happening right now. There's so much that's so predictable that people that are going like, this is amazing, and I end up going like, and to them it is, but it's like when you've seen enough of it, you go like, yeah, this story was done back in the 70s, and they've mixed a little bit of that thing they learned in the 90s, and they've done it 47 times since then. You're like,
To be fair, we haven't watched nearly as much modern anime as we used to watch when anime was modern.
Oh, absolutely. There's been some good ones.
Yeah, the stuff that we have watched has been really good and really fun, and I've enjoyed quite a bit of it. So I think it's just one of those things where we just have to watch more should we ever get any more time, which that's one of the things. We don't have much time to watch the stuff we want to watch.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Nonetheless, the stuff that we would like to watch.
Well, and the thing is, it's not across the board. Like, I've seen some stuff recently that I have just laughed my butt off. Like I am still just so waiting for the next season of Prison School. Like, little kids out there, don't watch that. It's inappropriate. But it is so funny.
We still have to catch up on One Punch Man.
Yeah, I still got to finish that up.
I've been meaning to actually sit down and watch My Hero Academia, which I heard is really phenomenal. The Boku no Hero Academia or something like that.
And I watched the Little Witch Academia OVAs. I thought those were really fun. And there's a actual TV series that they just put up on Netflix I've been meaning to get to. So I'm not saying it's all that way. It's just that so often I'll watch something and go like, oh man, I've kind of seen this before. Like with Little Witch Academia, I mean, I'd kind of seen some of it before, but it was really cute and they had a nice. They did some fun stuff with the style that was a little different, and it was kind of like a really silly, not exactly Harry Potter.
Quite noisy this morning.
It's been obnoxious this morning.
I think the warmer weather is bringing people out again and causing people to do stupid stuff.
Yeah, it could be.
It's been a bit chilly the past 3.5 weeks. People are saying that. Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there. We just haven't got to it. And there's one, I think, that came out in Japan, and it should be coming over here if it's not already over here. in digital form. I actually was kind of curious. It was another high school story, which,
Okay.
but it was based about a deaf girl,
Huh.
and the guy who basically kind of becomes her friend in a sense, and it was a movie or animated feature in Japan that.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think I showed you the trailer a while back ago.
Yeah, sort of a light romance kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it looked interesting. I'm not really usually into the fluffy kind of thing in a sense, which part of me kind of is, because yes, I am a closet romantic, right?
Well,
But
if it's a
yeah.
good story, it's a good story. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, but it looked interesting. It looked beautifully animated, and that's what really caught my attention was the animation. It looked really solid, and I think a lot of people now that Ghibli or Ghibli, however, is kind of pulling back. I think a lot of people are now stepping forward from the lessons learned from there. A lot of people who watched and grew up with that studio with Miyazaki are now coming into the spotlight, coming into power, and now they're taking their loves and putting it towards their projects.
Yeah, the thing I think I really like about Ghibli, and it's something that is alien to Disney, for example, is it really was Miyazaki. Early on, it really was Walt Disney, but then other people picked it up and ran with it and started turning it into some of it good, some of it bad, all sorts of different stuff. But with Ghibli, it was so clearly like that one guy, and like I remember what his son directed one of them, and it just wasn't the same. And it was like really like that's what was kind of awesome about it, is it was that dude, and that's what I really love it, and it was that always had this great like solid vision going on, and sometimes with a lot of other studios where there isn't like a specific captain at the wheel or whatever, some stuff kind of gets weird and lost and inconsistent, and I'm not saying everything should be the same, but like with Miyazaki, everything wasn't the same. It had a consistency to it overall, and he had a nice wide variety of subjects, and some of the stuff was scary, and some of it was funny, and some of it was a little romantic, and a lot of it was nostalgic.
Their their storytelling base is very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very whimsical and very fantastical in a
Yeah.
sense. We don't have, because once again our country and our culture is only 270 plus years old, considering, no, 241 years old actually, and we aren't nearly as old as a place like Japan, where their stories and their culture comes from, basically goes from a primordial to a primal to a tribal to a to a more modern day society. We really didn't come out of America didn't really come out of a primordial sense, so we don't have a lot of the whimsical stuff like fairies, and a lot of that stuff was brought over from other countries that started America. But
we borrowed other people's stuff.
Yeah, so our storytelling is set more in a sense of realism and more of a foundational story. I don't even say foundational. It's more realistic based. With a lot of our fairy tales, a lot of our story bases of the American culture, we don't have a lot of the whimsy that a lot of other cultures come from, which I think it kind of leaves us lacking in a lot of things.
Well, it also gives us our own place. Like so much of what we have is so industrial and science based, and well, we were born in revolution, and then we were the weird like child of Europe, and we were we're weird. We're super weird, and I think that's probably why some like older cultures come over here and go like, what? And I think that's probably why there's a disconnect between us and some of the older cultures. I think that's why I like Japan, is they seem to have struck a balance between kind of like a very modern world and still holding on to like some of that antiquity, you know. I think part of it is clearly their culture. Like one of the elements of Japanese, and a lot of people say sort of the repressed or the sort of stoic and nature of the Japanese culture. Some of which being good, some of which being bad. The thing that I really like, and not that I've experienced this, but I've been told this, is even way back, it was considered incredibly rude to talk about religion. So everyone could believe in what they wanted to, but it's rude for anybody to walk up to anybody else and get in their face about what they believe. It's just square out rude. Like the whole town be like, "What are you doing?" Like everyone will. I don't think they'll turn on you like they're going to set you on fire, but like people will just they'll be like, "Whoa, hey, no." That's something I wish we would do here. It's like I think everyone should be able to believe what they like and not shove it into people's faces, and most certainly not like try to pass laws and stuff. And I think that's part of why parts of Japan could modernize so easily, because there's some elements where they're kind of that's not the right word. They're kind of so because I know I've heard some serious criticisms of how some of their politeness works. Like there's some really negative stuff to their politeness, but there's also some stuff about their politeness that I've heard that's like super positive, like that, where it's like there's just some stuff you don't do, which I think there's some wisdom there, being you leave people alone. I think that's how they kind of modernized so easily and are mixing in with other groups. They're not shoving like their personal beliefs and stuff in there, and the way we know about that stuff is through charming ways, through like Studio Ghibli, where it's like, oh yeah, Spirited Away might not be like literally their belief system, but it's so very Japanese in the way of like, the spirits and like the mythology. And Miyazaki was so good at doing that.
Well, that's what I meant as far as like with a lot of their fairy tale stuff is based out of a lot of their culture and all that. And I hate to say it, but in America, we really haven't had a chance to, we have a culture, but we don't have a solid fairy tale based story culture aside from wars. I mean, our country was born out of wars.
Well, I think our mythology, and I'm talking about in a sort of a Greek-Roman fashion, I think our mythology comes from like comic books, and unfortunately things like sports stars, which is why some people are so impressed with sports. But we formed sort of our own sort of mythos off of sort of, well, like Stan Lee, for example, is kind of one of the fathers of American mythology. I mean, not all mythology, but that's like, I think that's why that dude is kind of important, because when people look back, I think we're going to have Spider-Man 300 years from now. He's going to be a little different because he's going to get reinterpreted, but I think he's going to be there. I think the concept of the X-Men and such are going to be there because there's always outsiders and such.
I think for us with American...
What was that, sweetie?
So I think with like American fantasy stuff, as far as like fairy tales and storytelling, we do have a few major icons. It's just that, once again, it's coming out of the American culture, being born out of war and basically discovery. I mean, like you look at things like Paul Bunyan, you look at
yeah, that's true.
Why am I blanking? I should not be blanking on this guy, but
It's still kind of early.
yeah, the black guy, John Henry.
John Henry, yeah, no, it's
like those characters. Those are basically American mythological American fantasy fairy tales and stuff.
the funny thing is, and I actually, Paul Bunyan don't mean a thing to me. I love Paul Henry. He's one of my more favorite ones. thank you, John Henry. Yeah, I'm a little tired myself. But the thing is I go to the ones where people go to, like there's no John Henry like T-shirts and mugs compared to Superman. And that's why I kind of go to the comic book stuff, because to me I'm like, and that's why I think Hercules and them stuck, is because there's a certain like the repeatable. I mean, they were totally comic book characters, and they were even delivered like you know, like, he's gonna wrestle a bear, you know, and you totally see like that sort of thing with comic books, whereas like with John Henry, as awesome as it is, there's one story, and it's, you know, it's like parable's the wrong word. Oh, I'm not getting it. Allegory.
Okay.
Totally an allegory, which is great. Especially, you know, which is funny because I think he actually is very important, especially now with all the industrialization. I'm sorry, automation and industrialization, because industrialization is going to still be in other countries mostly, because we're going to keep automating things endlessly, and that's what John Henry was about. That was about the steam engine taking, you know, work away from people, and how he couldn't beat the steam engine, and he died trying, which was awesome.
I get kind of sad in the exact same manner of that.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I liked it. Is one, it was a watch out for, you know, machines taking our jobs away from us, blah blah blah. Which is, there's a certain reasonable argument there, and there is, you know, fight as hard as you can, even if you die trying. And I'm not a big, you know, fighting the man till I die kind of thing. But there's a certain, like, you know, he tried really hard, and that's I think there's a certain element to America right there, which is, you know, try really hard. You know, in some cases it's to people's detriment. They try so hard they kind of destroy their lives. But like we've got people at work that can't differentiate between working hard and grinding themselves down to a nub. And I believe in working hard. I don't believe in grinding myself down to a nub. And I do work hard. But there's people that look at me and go like, "You don't work hard enough." I'm going like, "I'm sorry. You need to be able to go home and rest and come back tomorrow and work at the same energy. That you can't just burn yourself down to the point that 2 months from now when you come in, you can only do 2 or 3 good hours of work out of, you know, 8 to 10. That makes no sense."
Like you said, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and there's we've got people that just can't tell the difference, unfortunately.
Those are the ones that unfortunately die at their desk.
And we've had some of those.
Yeah.
And I end up going like, "I'm sorry, look, I am really appreciative for the job I've got, and the company is taking good care of us, blah, 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 but at the end of the day, if you're sick and dying because of the job, they don't pay you enough money to make up for that, so they're causing so much damage that they're not paying you enough money to make up for that damage, then then you're in the negative. You know, it's one thing to work really hard and do everything you can, but when it's like that, it's like, no, I'm sorry.
One of the reasons why I left pharmacy, as much as I loved that job, and it's not what I wanted to do all my life, of course, but it was a really great job, and I loved working with medicine and learning about the different things that it does to help out the human body, but I just wanted to do my job. I didn't care about the crazy the crazy just
Docudrama?
Yeah. Basically, that was happening every single day when I'd come into work, and whatever stupid I can't think of words today. Wow. Like drama would be awaiting me. Just like I just wanted to come in and help people.
Do my job.
And count pills.
Yep.
And give people their medicine and help them feel better. And in the meantime, how can I help somebody feel better when I'm being inundated with a bunch of just stupid daytime soaps worthy of like going through BS coming at me because some pharmacist slept with another pharmacist and this pharmacist doesn't want to work with you because apparently you got them in trouble for following a rule that you were supposed to follow and true stories, by the way. And it's like, nobody in that content. I just want to do my job.
I know. It's kind of what I have at work too. Is I've got situations where there's people at work telling me to do one thing and people at work telling me to do something else. And at the end of the day, they're, and both groups are going like, well, this is for the best of the company, and then it's up to me to decide who's right for me to follow. And then, no matter what you do, you're screwed. Somebody is going to be like, well, you didn't do, you're like, well, what are you supposed to do? This person over here said to not do that, and then you just get to a point where you're like, and meanwhile, both sides are going like, well, I know what's best, and you kind of go like, okay, well, the problem being is as the person looking in on it, you can't see two things that are completely contradictory being the best. You have to choose one, or maybe find a third, and a third might be possible, but you end up kind of going like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's you see one thing, they see another, and you kind of get to a point where you're like, I just want to come into work and do my job, and y'all are complicating stuff, and I hate to sound like that, but it's like, guys, somebody settle on something. Because of people, and I'm not the only one, people are getting miserable and exhausted and just kind of wanting it to be done with so everyone can just come to work and do their jobs without all the extra silly passive-aggressive drama. Then I kind of have to sit there and go like, look, am I going to just keep on letting the drama flow, or am I going to try to, actually stop the drama? Because the drama's the damage, the drama's the problem. It's like, fine, somebody can think one thing or whatever, but I have to know what I have to do on a daily basis, and you can't just let people honestly act like that. Even if they think they're doing the right thing, that's actually what's really difficult. They think they're doing the right thing, so you have to commend them. They think they're doing the right thing, but the problem being is as they think they're doing the right thing, they're causing problems, and they don't see that. They think that they're being like amazing, and in certain fashions they are, but it's so frustrating. It's so unbelievably frustrating.
Hey Jim, Jim's watching with us.
Which Jim?
Jim and Melinda.
Okay, that Jim. Okay, sorry, Jim. We know a couple Jims.
Co-workers can be difficult sometimes.
Okay, say that again, sweetie.
He just said co-workers can be difficult sometimes.
Yep. And the thing is I don't, and I really mean this, I don't blame anybody, but you get to a point where you're just going like, when you brought up obvious problems repeatedly, I mean, things that are just like what I would consider an elementary school level of obvious. Like, I don't want to sound insulting or demeaning or whatever, but when you get to a point where you're just going like, look, that's not true. That makes sense only sometimes. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. That's not what I'm saying. It's they do know. That we have got people that do know what they're doing, but you end up looking at it going like, guys, this doesn't work all the time. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
It's like very commercial with the elderly ladies. This isn't how this works. This isn't how any of this works.
Well, the thing that makes it the problem is sometimes it is how it works. But then you've got personality types that thinks, well, then we'll just do that all the time. And you're like, but that's not, oh, never mind. Dang it, seriously?
We found one way for it to work, so we're going to keep doing this way over and over again until we find it. Until we don't do it over and over again.
And then you get the frustrating thing where you bring up, it's like, well, that's not how it happens all the time. And they go, well, yeah. Okay, then if you know that, why are we still wasting all this time doing processes that are unnecessary? And you just end up going like, ah! I just want to do my job. I know how to do my job. Let me do my job.
Hi, Nora. Nora's watching with us also.
Who now?
Nora. Watching
Oh,
with us.
Nora. Hey, Nora. Yeah, just so everybody knows, typically I am not looking at the screen at all, and I have no future plans to actually do the talking to people as they come in and taking requests and stuff. That's another thing. I'm literally doing Eric's selfish time and letting you guys join in. And so if you say stuff and I'm not responding, it's not because I'm being a jerk. It's literally because this is what I want to be doing, and if I'm staring at the screen, I'm not going to be doing this, because I'm shocked I'm able to talk at the same time that I'm doing this, to be honest.
I usually pop in, watch the screen as people come in and say, oh,
Yeah.
shout out.
Yeah, Lashida's the one that usually, when she's in here, is checking on that stuff.
Jim says he's eating an Italian trio sandwich and watching the video.
Woo-hoo!
That sounds good.
I am kind of thinking in the future of doing longer sketches, like a page that will take longer than a sit-down. Because I was actually thinking about going in and doing like full renders where you've got like the face, the body, the costuming, and like go over like a couple of Sundays. My only fear is you're going to get people that are just, if they're not into the character, they'll skip 2 or 3 episodes. You know, and not like I'm like trying to be like a ratings guy, but I'm trying to make it effective so people like want to sit down and hang out. So I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
Actually, I've seen people do that where they'll work on a sketch and then they'll say, okay, we got this far. Next time we'll work on this part of it, or work on this part. Or like, okay, we got the sketch down. Next time we'll do the inking. Next time we'll do the coloring. And they do it in steps so people can actually see the entire thing come together. It's more about the just coming in and seeing how it's going to turn out than anything. And I think a lot of people actually do like watching the process out of something.
Yeah, because I was kind of hoping, sort of picking out a list of characters that I really like their costuming and stuff. Because some characters are costuming you just can't just quickly do. You have to really work on it. And because I was kind of hoping on doing like a big like dirty pair image with all their like space battle outfits and stuff. But there's no way I could do that in a sitting. It's just, there's no way. There's just too much there.
I was looking at your sketch today. It was probably a lot simpler than the one I was going to say, hey, why don't you give this a try? I was going to say, hey, do Radigan from Great Mouse Detective. One of my, that's my favorite Vincent Price character.
He's a good one, too.
Yeah, I actually sketched him out when I was sitting at the car dealership waiting for the car to get fixed. It didn't turn out very well because I ran out of space.
And he'd be good, too, because he's another one of those characters that's outside of my normal sketch style.
Exactly, and I could see him being really kind of frightening in your style. You do really good. You do really good gnarly.
Well, and it probably came from being like a troubled teenage boy that drew a lot of frustrating images. But there's something really, really satisfying about angry and evil villain faces. Or gnarly old dudes, those guys that have seen it all before. You know, those kind of guys. I mean, I love doing like the pretty girls and stuff. I mean, they're super fun. But there's something about like when I did Doofenshmirtz. Yeah, for anyone that didn't catch it earlier, yeah, I did. I did these guys last couple episodes, and there was something super fun about all the wrinkles and like the smiles that go way past behind their teeth and stuff, and that was really fun. Like I'm wanting to get like some female characters to do that with too, because I love doing the pretty girls, blah blah blah. I mean, they're pretty girls. They're fun to draw, but you just want to get like pretty girls with like, I don't know, like a psychotic twinge to them.
Or you can just do like some of the just older gnarly women. Like you can do a really good Yzma from Emperor Groove, or Ursula would probably look really good in your style.
Yeah, I've worked on Ursula, and I've modeled a Cruella at work, and she was really. Cruella is a skull with a tight layer of wax paper stretched over it. She is wonderful.
She's a great design.
I didn't do a complete Ursula. I did a part of Ursula. I think I jumped onto somebody else's model, if I remember correctly. So yeah, actually the one thing that I really love about Disney is, well, their animation and their art direction, their characters and stuff. I will quite often have issue with what they do with characters sometimes, and I most certainly have issue with them taking the music way too far. Which is funny because people go, you just don't like musicals. I'm like, that is incorrect. I love Phineas and Ferb. And there is a song and a musical sequence in, I think, nearly every episode.
Almost everyone, yeah.
I think there's a handful that don't have it, and there's a handful of them when people go, you just don't like musicals. I'm like, no, I just don't like your musicals. You know, like I swear, I was walking around work the other day. I was having a bad day, and I saw this one lady kind of run, and I just started, in the back of my head, I'm going like, run, Candace, run, run, Candace, run. And the whole bit from Phineas and Ferb with that Run, Candace, Run song and sequence just slays me. It's so funny. I don't remember the rest of it. But I just love that real deep, like almost techno. Run, Candace, run, run, Candace, run, and it's so funny. But yeah, it's just, you get to a point where I think I think everybody can be criticized on something, to be honest. Not like in a condemning way, but on a, really, seriously. I mean, this is how we're going to spend our time in Moana, is with, what was it, 80 musical sequences, only one of them was good, and it was because it was tribal music?
It was 8, yeah, I think there was 8 songs in this, which is usually, yeah, it's 2 more than what Disney usually has in their standard musical form, but,
And the thing is everybody was like really, the rap musical guy that was involved.
Lin-Manuel.
Yeah. And it's fine that people like his stuff and all that. I guess I need to hear his other stuff. But to be honest, I saw Moana and I was super underwhelmed. I was just like,
I was hurt and sad because I wanted to like it so bad.
I was wanting to love Moana, and Moana, honestly, was the first, and even from Disney, where I literally was like, wow, I got to go do dishes right now so I can stop watching this. First time in my life I've ever done that. If I saw that in the theater, I think it would have been the first time I ever actually walked out of a movie in a theater, because it was so frustrating to watch. It was so hard.
We've been going for an hour and 22 minutes now.
Cool. I'm pretty much done anyway. I'm just kind of... It was this hair. There's so much going on with this hair. I actually think the hair turned out pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad. Actually, I'm glad I made the head the size I did. Any bigger, I would have really ran off the edges. Anywho, thanks everyone for joining, and everyone have yourself a good week. I will be back next week, unless something really ridiculous happens. And everyone have fun. This is Eric Whalen doing his Mr. Rogers bit. That's right. I'm putting my stuff away. I'm not gonna change my shoes or switch my sweaters out, but I am gonna put my stuff away. And y'all, it's blurry. There we go. So y'all have yourself a good week, and I will catch you later.